Hi class, this is Mr. DiCarlo. Because of lack of good materials available, I'm doing a video for you on U.S. Government Chapter 12, Section 3, and that is about, let me grab this here, influencing court decisions. That is, influencing Supreme Court decisions. The first influence on the Supreme Court is their decisions must be based on law, and that law is generally the Constitution. So when a court case goes up to the Supreme Court, they have to decide whether it's based on the Constitution. They cannot just come up with ideas and decisions just out of their head. The next thing is the views of their fellow justices. We are, as people, most influenced by the people around us. And the same is true with the Supreme Court. They're a small group who gets together and works very closely. They even eat lunch together. I saw a funny thing that where Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the justice who just passed away, would note what her fellow justices ate, and she took notes, and she said, like, Sandra Day O'Connor liked beef jerky, and another justice would eat yogurt and apples, and he was quite skinny. But there you go. They're very close to each other, and they affect each other. The next is harmony or conflict amongst the judges. If the group is in harmony, what happens when people are in harmony? They tend to compromise. And when they conflict, they tend to dig their heels in. And so if they're in harmony, they're more likely to bend for each other. And then if they're in conflict, they're more likely to vote along party lines. The next is the influence of the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice sets the tone. He or she runs the meetings and assigns who's going to write the opinions. If the Chief Justice is someone who is respected, hardworking, cares about other people, and brings harmony, it's got a positive effect on the group. The next is concern for public support. Even though the Supreme Court justice is in for life, they can't be fired, and then they work closely together, and they're not allowed to discuss their cases, they need to be aware of the public. A good example that happened was in the 1970s when some Southern people lost a discrimination case, and the justice who was going to write the opinion was a Northerner named Felix Frankfurter. Well, the Chief Justice changed his mind. He said, wait a second, I don't want Mr. Frankfurter, sounds like a hot dog, to write this opinion. I'm going to give it to our Southern Chief Justice named Stanley Reed. This way, when the Southerners lose, they won't complain that a Northerner wrote the opinion. Okay. Another one, again, is social forces, which is like the public. And a good example would be in the 1890s. There was a famous court case called Plessy versus Ferguson, and the Supreme Court decided that it was totally okay for facilities, governmental and private, which would mean like businesses, to have separate but equal. That means this. In the Southeast where these things took place, a restaurant could say black people on one half, white people on one half. Black people use this restroom, white people use this restroom, as long as the facilities were supposedly equal. Now, in the 1950s, 50 years later, the public didn't want this anymore. Not just black people, but most people. And so in a case called Brown versus the Board of Education, that earlier decision in the 1890s was reversed. And from then on, it was illegal to forcibly segregate people in public places. The next is the president's influence. Number one, the president is the person who chooses, nominates who's going to be on the Supreme Court. That's just one power. The other power is this. If the Supreme Court will go ahead and create a precedent, a decision that's called precedent law, it's the president's job to enforce the law. Well, he may not enforce it. He may disagree so much with the Supreme Court's opinion that he won't enforce it. And this has happened several times in our nation's history. Another thing is the influence of Congress. Congress decides how many Supreme Court justices there are, and also, again, the law that we have in the Supreme Court is called precedent. It means it's not a written law in terms of a legislative process, but these opinions count as law to a great degree. Well, an example, again, is that there's a lot of Catholics on the Supreme Court right now. They think there's 5. That's a majority, and some are quite conservative. They're anti-abortion. So if they, in times coming up, may very well write opinions and precedent law that is against abortion, Congress can disagree. And they can say, well, we don't agree with you. We're going to write laws that are pro-abortion. So there's the influence of Congress. Lastly, and this was not in the book, but I added it, is friends and family, family and friends. Again, you are sort of an amalgamation, a famous psychologist said, or a famous successful person said, of the people closest to you. And so your family and friends have a great deal of an influence in how you think, even if you're a Supreme Court justice. Thanks for watching, and I do hope this helped.